Welcome to the HRKyle Podcast, your go-to source for insightful discussions on leadership, job searching, and all things human resources. I'm your host, HRKyle, and each week we dive deep into topics relevant to professionals seeking to elevate their careers and organizations. Whether you're a seasoned leader, a job seeker navigating the ever-changing landscape of employment, or an enthusiast looking to stay ahead of the curve, this is the podcast for you. Join me as we explore practical strategies, share expert insights, and engage in meaningful conversations that empower you to succeed in today's dynamic workplace. So, adjust your headphones and let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another edition of the HRKyle Podcast. I'm your host, HRKyle, and we're so glad you could join us today. So today we're talking about a topic that I don't think gets enough attention as it relates to the world of work. And that is some of these emerging careers that we're starting to see here in the last couple of years. And certainly we can go through the list, but we're all familiar with data science, artificial intelligence. We're hearing a lot more about that. We're seeing a lot of roles come up within the medical fields and healthcare and so on. So there's a lot of these emerging careers, and I don't hear a lot of conversation about it. So we're gonna discuss that topic today. Becky's going to join me yet again in segment 1 to talk about that and some of the careers and things for you to think about relative to those emerging careers. And then in segment 2, we've got a really cool guest. He is the founder and commissioner of an esports league. And before you dismiss that and say, oh, esports, that's just something that kids are playing in their video games. No, esports have come a long way in the last 5 years. These are professional leagues where people can make a living playing video games. And even to describe it like that, I'm probably downplaying it too much. They can make a really good living. And in fact, there are college programs around the country that can train you to be an esports professional. So again, we've got a cool guest. He's a founder and commissioner of one of the more prominent leagues throughout the U.S., and he's going to join us to talk about the roles there and just talk about that league and some of the things that his professionals are doing. So again, we've got another exciting, fun episode scheduled for you. We're going to take a quick break here, and then when we come back, Becky and I are going to tackle the topic of emerging careers.
Are you ready to find the career you love? Navigating today's job market alone can be overwhelming and costly. Outdated templates and generic approaches can waste your time and lead to missed opportunities. That's where HRKyle's career search services come in. With over 25 years of talent acquisition experience, Kyle Patrick Smith is here to guide you every step of the way. We specialize in crafting eye-catching resumes, preparing you for interviews, and helping you discover the careers where you'll truly thrive. Our trusted network of recruiters opens doors to exclusive roles you won't find on job boards. Our clients don't just search. They land jobs with focus and direction, using effective, up-to-date strategies. If you're serious about your career, visit hrkyle.com or call 330-5554-5264 for your free consultation. Don't waste another day with outdated methods. Your dream job is within reach.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that brief break. And HRKyle Becky, again, is going to join me today so we can talk about the topic of emerging careers. HRKyle Becky, welcome back.
Thanks, Kyle. This sounds like a really neat topic today. I was thinking of, I had a middle school student who actually made his own games, and I was talking to him about selling them, doing exactly something like this. That's so cool.
Well, and that's the thing that we're seeing. Some of these emerging careers, they're not just for someone who's been a professional for a long period of time or someone that's grown up around this. There's any number of people, depending on your background and what you've done, that can get involved in or transition to some of these emerging careers. So that's what's exciting about this too, as well. And again, like you say, there's no age limit to it.
Yeah. And it's almost like, which, we all talk about, but taking that passion and turn it into a career.
Yeah. Isn't that what we talk about all the time with our
Yes.
career search services? It's like,
Yeah.
what's your passion? What makes you want to get up every day? And
Right.
then, yes, like you say, taking that and saying, guess what? I can make a living doing that.
Yeah. Well, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are for these emerging careers?
Well, I think first and foremost, because they're emerging, because they're new, there isn't a lot of information out there sometimes. If we're talking about careers like in engineering and those that have been around for a long time, sure, there's a wealth of information. But when we're talking about jobs relative to artificial intelligence, or like we say, gaming professional, there's just not a lot of information about that. So first and foremost, you're going to probably have to do a lot more digging than you might typically need to do to get the kind of information. And I think the other thing is that you're going to run into is you're going to get a reaction from people that may not be the reaction that you're hoping to get. And what I mean by that is when you tell someone that you're going to go into this particular field and that particular field, because they're not familiar with it or they haven't heard a lot about it, they may give you a negative reaction. You can't fall prey to that, to where you say, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So I think those are the two biggest things. One, there's limited information on some of these careers. And two, you may not necessarily always get a favorable reaction from people when you share what you're interested in doing.
Right. Then how can these job seekers in these new careers, how can they best prepare themselves?
Well, I think just like any other career, do your research. Try to connect with people that are doing these jobs currently. And if you can't find them, it never hurts to talk with people who are possibly in academia. Maybe they're a professor in this particular topic area or something related to it. But definitely it's a couple of those things. Do your research, understand what the job looks like from a day-to-day basis. Do your networking so you can talk to people who are doing it, who have done it, been involved with it. Maybe they even work parallel to it. And there's no problem in going the academic route and talking to college professors who maybe teach the topic or they hold a course on it. For example, podcasting is another example. I know a few people who are, they have a business doing that, or I should say they're teaching a course at a college on it. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, because my experience has taught me people that are in these, especially these emerging careers, they're excited to talk about it because, again, they've run into some resistance when they've shared it with people that they know to say, oh gosh, what are you doing again?
Right.
But if they get someone who's receptive to learning about it and joining it potentially, they're more than happy to talk about it.
Right. So basically what you're saying is be creative, think out of the box when you're trying to prepare for this.
You have to. You've got to be open to, where the journey is going to take you. You can't have a lot of anxiety about it. You've got to either dive, full force into it or make the decision maybe it's not for you, because the information is not going to be as readily available. People may not be as supportive. There may not be a lot of places out there where you can talk to someone. So you've got to be a little bit fearless. Exactly.
Right. So how has the rise of these tech-driven roles influenced the skills and the qualifications that employers seek in potential candidates?
Well, I'll give you a quick example. So in artificial intelligence, that's become a very big topic over the last few years as far as careers. And what it's putting a premise on is really understanding more about what you're looking to accomplish. Because in those particular roles, the artificial intelligence is doing the basic work, meaning the routine. Artificial intelligence is very good about that. It's as good as it is trained. But once it's trained, it's very good at doing the routine. So you as the professional, for example, working in the artificial intelligence field, you've got to use that higher level thinking to say, where do I need to take this next? Where am I driving this to next? So you have to have a much better feel for what your end result is, because artificial intelligence can't do that. It's simply read and react. We're seeing it do more than that, but at the present time, it's basically read and react. So you're having to think about, where do I want it to go next? What direction do I want to steer this in? What's my goal? How can I be strategic about this? The other thing to think about with any of the technology tools is building your people skills. Because again, the technologies can't do that. Robots they don't work well with people. They work well with tasks. Artificial intelligence, again, works well with tasks, but it's not necessarily adept at interacting with people at a higher level.
Right. Right.
So build those people skills.
Right. So then how do you think this is going to change traditional hiring processes?
You're going to see much more technology. We're starting to see that. We're seeing technology take up the role, again, in the initial steps of screening resumes and getting tasks done. What I want to see it do is help us be more efficient in hiring and onboarding people and answering questions and serving our employees and our former employees. That's where I want to see it go. But ultimately, I want to see it used in a good way so that the people piece is still there. What I mean is when you need to talk to a person, there's a person more readily available because the routine tasks are being covered by a technology.
Yeah, which is, I love that idea of getting back to the people, and maybe that'll force companies hiring people to kind of step back and, make phone calls, to actually meet face to face first, those type of things.
Well, and return phone calls. That's something we talk about.
True.
You call these businesses, you never get a call back. And again, that's not something a machine can do. That's a person thing. So let the machine do the things that machines are really good at. Right. And let the people do the things that people are really good at. And never the twain shall meet.
Right. Yeah, I like that a lot. What impact have these new roles had on more established industries and job functions? Or have they?
Well, I mean, it's forcing people to rethink some of the roles. For example, I know I keep coming back to artificial intelligence because that's the most popular. But what it's doing there is, again, it's taking those routine tasks up to and including programming, for example. We used to have all these programmers. We don't need programmers to the level that we did. Mm-hmm. So now we're needing people that used to do the programming. We need them to be more architectural. We need them to be more the conduit between the technology and the client. So we're seeing roles evolve and change. And, rather than be afraid of this, because people are afraid, oh my gosh, it's going to eliminate my job. Right. It's going to eliminate a job, but it's also going to create other jobs. We didn't see all these people lose their jobs when we went from, riding in carriages to automobiles. The jobs just simply changed. And that's what we're seeing here. Same way in like the medical field. We're seeing some emerging roles there that we didn't see necessarily as much before. One is physician's assistants. We're seeing a lot more of that. Well, what that's designed to do is take away some of the routine stuff that really a doctor shouldn't be doing, or even a nurse for that matter. They're very basic tasks, allowing the doctor to be more efficient and allowing the doctor to focus on what they're good at, and that is to diagnose and treat, as opposed to just check in and take measurements and those kind of things.
Right. Well, stepping back just a minute with the AI you were talking about, I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and the speaker said that it's not, you're not going to lose your job to a machine. You're going to lose your job to the person who's learning the AI and becomes, specialized in it.
Well, exactly. And again, we've seen that throughout time where jobs have been eliminated to do certain things, but jobs aren't being eliminated. It's the job to do that particular task that's been eliminated. Right. And again, there's a clear difference.
And this kind of leads into my next question, which we've probably answered already, but are traditional roles evolving in corporate elements of these newer careers?
Oh my gosh, up and down and across, all of the above. So I mentioned HR. We're seeing a lot more technology replace some of the basic tasks, namely screening resumes. That initial screen, if that system is programmed correctly, can be as effective or more effective than a person. And that technology can be used to send a message to the person after they've screened it that, they're not going to be considered, or that we want to schedule an interview with them, and it triggers a calendar that the person can go ahead and schedule themselves for their interview.
Right.
So that's one of the examples. We're seeing it across a lot of fields, though, to where AI is again, I keep saying this because it's where it is most valuable. It's eliminating the routine tasks that a person do. Because if it's routine and it's the same thing over and over again, or it requires a few if-then statements, then a machine can do that. You don't need a person to do that.
Right. And two things that I heard there, if it's programmed correctly because of those keywords,
Yep.
and then also to just generate those decline letters,
Yes.
instead of us as job seekers never hearing from the company, that it can automatically be sent.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at. That's where the technology can come into play. It makes us more efficient. It makes us more responsive. When I use the example of the medical office, then you're not waiting in the waiting room so long because, the routine task is going over and over again. Someone that can be programmed. Maybe you walk in and the first thing you do is you step on a scale and it gets your weight, it takes your blood pressure, and it does all those things rather than a person having to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're checking in just like we do at grocery stores and so on, where you check out. Maybe you're checking in and it's all with a machine. You don't need to interact with a person on that. The routine's the same. How many times have you gone to the doctor? You sit there and wait, then they call you back. Somebody's got to put you on a scale. They got to write that number down. They got to put you in a room. What if that's all programmed automatically? So when you show up to the doctor, you go up to that screen, you indicate you're there for your appointment. It does all like I say, it takes your temperature, it does your weight, it does your blood pressure. Then after you've completed that, it sends you to a waiting room where that information has already been sent to the doctor, and then they walk in. It just makes it so much more efficient.
Right. And maybe you need a new career here and kind of patent that with the machine, what it looks like. So I think that's a great idea. And again, it's not going to take away jobs. It's we as patients are going to get in and out faster.
Well, exactly. And somebody has to program that machine, and they've got to produce those machines, and they've got to deliver those machines. And so there's all these jobs that relate to this that someone's going to need to do that don't exist now. So maybe that person that used to sit at the desk and check you in now is working for the company that builds the machines, that does the check-in and all of those things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. What a great idea.
Yeah, I got a few of them.
So finishing up here then today, how should companies and leaders approach supporting employees in these fast evolving roles, especially in the terms of training, adapting to new technology, and so on?
Well, this is going to be the obvious, but you know what I've learned? Companies don't do the obvious. How many times do we have conversations about that? You know what the most obvious thing is, Becky? Ask your employees.
Right.
I know that's radical. And it's so funny. I joke about this, but it's true. I'll do these talks and these speeches, and I'll talk to leaders and so on. I say this stuff, and they're like, well, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Then I talk to their employee, and they're like, no, this has never happened here. Yep. No one's ever asked me what I thought. No one's ever done. And it's like, guys, somewhere there's a gap because you're supposed to do it, but you're not. Right. So, again, I'll get off my high horse on that to say you need to have more conversations. The fear with all of this comes from the unknown. We as humans are wired to fear the unknown. So the less unknowns there are, the less fear we have. So when these technologies are being put into place, talk with your employees, explain to them why they're being put in place, what it's going to allow you to do, what your long-term plans are, what it means to them. Because, again, we're humans, we're a little selfish. When something happens, we want to know, what's this mean to me? And, these are opportunities to stay ahead of things. And maybe there's opportunities to train your employees on doing other things.
Right.
Let them know that that's where your head is and what this means.
And imagine finding out more about your employees that you didn't know before.
Exactly. The things that they're interested in doing and the challenges they face in their life and why this might make them nervous.
Yep.
The example I always give, but it's an oldie but a goodie. The employee was having trouble getting into work, and rather than discipline them, talking to them and find out that they had some anxiety about driving on the highway, we adjust their schedule literally an hour, and the issues go away. So talk to your employees, talk them through this. These things are nerve-wracking. People like to know they have a job and they've got security. When there's something that looks like a threat to that, they want the opportunity to ask questions and get honest answers.
Right, exactly. Well, great conversation again. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, we're pretty good at this.
We are.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Becky, and thank you for always doing this. It makes it an enjoyable session for me just to talk through these topics and have some good dialogue behind it, because we both have quite a bit of experience in the world of work, as we call it. So I appreciate that. Well, folks, we appreciate you as well. We're going to take a quick break, and after that, we've got our gentleman who is the founder and commissioner of an esports league, and he's going to have some really good thoughts around these emerging technologies and what they mean to our world and some of the exciting things that we can look forward to seeing. So again, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Are you stuck in a job you hate? Dreaming of a career that excites you? It's time to turn those dreams into reality with Get the Job You Love by Kyle Patrick Smith, also known as HRKyle. Discover proven strategies to land your dream job, master interviews, and stand out from the crowd. Packed with expert advice and practical tips, Get the Job You Love is your ultimate guide to career success. Available now on Amazon and other online retailers. Don't wait. Start your journey to a fulfilling career today. Get the job you love, because you deserve a job you love.
Greetings, I'm Kyle Smith, and I'm here to offer you a speaking experience that goes beyond the ordinary. With a rich background in leadership, HR, and personal development, I bring a unique blend of expertise and passion to every presentation. Whether it's Leadership Unleashed, well-being at work, or career mastery, I delve into topics that empower individuals and organizations to reach their fullest potential. What sets me apart? Proven expertise, an engaging delivery style, and actionable insights that drive positive change. But here's the kicker. I don't just offer a one-size-fits-all approach. I customize my content to meet the specific needs and goals of your event. So let's elevate your event together. Contact me now to reserve your date and unlock the full potential of your audience and organization. Don't miss out on the opportunity to inspire greatness. Visit HRKyle.com today. Hello and welcome to segment 2 of the HRKyle Podcast. I'm your host, HRKyle, and I hope you enjoyed that brief break and learning more about some of the things that I'm up to. So we're going to continue in segment 2 on the theme that we started with segment 1, and that is looking at alternative career options. And when I say alternative, I'm talking about career options that have come up over the last, say, 10, 15 years. And one of the major ones that we're hearing more and more about, and in fact, colleges are starting to offer degrees in this area, is esports. Well, I fully admit that although I played quite a few video games when I was a younger man, I am by far not an expert in this area. So what I did was I found a man who is very much an expert in this area. In fact, he's CEO of the Ultimate Endgamers League. His name is Titus Walker, and Titus is joining us tonight on the HRKyle Podcast. So, Titus, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the intro.
Absolutely. We're great to have you, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you. So, Titus, start off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a father of 7, and I am very much father first. Got into real estate at a pretty young age, and started doing real estate development. And so that's kind of my background. I played video games, but real estate development was really my background. So we would develop land from, a 10 home community all the way up to a 2,000 home community. And I did that for about 8 years, but didn't really find much of a purpose in doing that, and kind of felt like I was, just not where I was supposed to be. And so that's when, I tried a lot of different businesses, and the one that really, really stuck was something that I've always really loved, and that was gaming. And so that's kind of how I ended up doing what I'm doing now.
Awesome. Great story. And thank you for sharing that. And by the way, congratulations on 7 kids and then still starting your own business and now starting the Ultimate Endgamers League. So you have a unique ability to juggle a lot of different priorities.
I do. Yeah, I do. And I've been really good at, the kids are getting older now. I mean, The oldest is turning 16, and then it's kind of just like 15, 14, 13, 12, type thing. So, and then we had another, we started over. And so we have my youngest son is 4 years old. So,
good for you.
Yeah, but they're all, old enough now to where, they don't need me, in their face as much, or they don't require as much maintenance. So it makes it a little bit easier.
Well, we may need to consider having your wife on in a future episode, because I'd love to hear her perspective on all this also.
Yeah.
She must be incredibly resilient.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Titus, as I mentioned, you're CEO of the Ultimate Endgamers League. And how do you see then esports as an industry evolving as truly a viable career option for individuals? And beyond that, what opportunities do you believe it offers for those interested in pursuing a career in gaming?
Sure, yeah. I think the current esports landscape doesn't really offer much, just because it's kind of stayed stagnant for the past, 50 years. I think the 70s is when the first esports event happened. Mm-hmm. And essentially what esports has become, or what it always was really, was just a competitive way to market an individual game, right? And so what ended up happening over time was the esports landscape became just this marketing engine for a single title. So I think until we came around and have developed the first more like multi-game approach where the game doesn't control the narrative. And what I mean by that is because the game is an intellectual property of somebody. So similar to music, it's like, you have a Call of Duty, for example. It's owned by Call of Duty. So they really control everything that happens within that Call of Duty world, as they should. It's theirs. But what we developed is more of like this approach, kind of like UFC, where we take all different games, all different genres, and put the focus on gaming and gamers. And so I think with the evolution of esports becoming more about gaming and gamers, there's really this ability to create a sustainable environment for people, whether you're in production of gaming, development of gaming, or you want to be a professional gamer, which is huge right now, or in any commentary or any really side portion of gaming, just because it's such a big industry, man. It's a $400 billion industry, and if done right, there is a lot of potential there for you to make, good money or just have a sustainable career within it.
Well, and the other thing that I'm gathering here is you being the industry and certainly your league, still very much on a growth perspective at this point.
Absolutely. Esports is in its infancy. Esports was kind of a buzzword that was created to get a bunch of investors in. But really it's just gaming. Like gaming has been around since the 70s, but competitive gaming is where esports comes in, right? And so the competitive side of gaming is 40% of the gaming industry is competitive. And so it's a $400 billion industry, right? It's bigger than music and movies combined. But the competitive side of gaming hasn't grown. It hasn't shifted outside of that single individual title or that single developer. And so, it really, basketball couldn't be as popular as it is if somebody owned the basketball itself and you couldn't use the basketball how you wanted, and you couldn't, commercialize it and sell tickets unless you had permission from whoever owned basketball, right?
Right.
The reason it works so well as a sport is because anybody can do it. And so gaming has to evolve in that same way where, gaming isn't owned by anybody, but the games are. And so you have to develop something around gaming and gamers in order to have something that's sustainable that anyone can do. And so that really is in its infancy stage, and we're really excited to be at the forefront of it. I mean, we're the largest esports league in the world at this point in the multi-game genres.
Well, and Titus, the other thing that you've hit on here a couple of times that I want to take straight on is, especially with your league, you're emphasizing inclusivity and supporting gamers outside of that top 1% skill level, the elite of the elite.
Exactly.
How does this focus on inclusivity impact career opportunities within the industry and really both on and off the competitive stage?
Yeah, right now, it impacts it in such a major way because the massive majority of gamers that make it onto this quote unquote big stage are the ones that already have a following, right? Because the teams are trying to the teams are trying to make money off of your image, your likeness, right? Your name, image, and likeness. And so if you build a following, then the team is more likely to sign you. When in reality, it should be based on merit and skill, right?
Yeah.
And so creating an environment where anybody can do it if they're good enough to do it is really the key to having something of success. Imagine if the NBA was you're only allowed in if you have a celebrity, right? Like they aren't creating the celebrities. You're only in if you already are a celebrity. And that's kind of where esports started to trend because the teams had to make enough money to sustain themselves because they were paying exorbitant amounts of money. You know, the games are charging exorbitant amounts of money in order for you to be able to play those games. So it's like everybody was trying, it's very much a take industry. You know, I'm going to take your game and then I'm going to take these players and I'm going to take, you know, and nobody's really trying to give back. And so what we're trying to do is give back to the gamers, like the community, the developers even, you know, give back to them and be able to put a shine or a spotlight on just amazing games. Popular or not, these games are amazing. And amazing gamers, popular or not, these gamers are amazing and they're putting in the work and putting in the effort. And so creating a more diverse, inclusive thing is everything, right? That's the only way you survive as a sport.
Well, I was going to say that there's your sustainability. There's your pipeline of future contributors, future participants, future stars is by having that ability to say, this is open. If you're good enough, you can make it, just like every other sports league.
Exactly. And that is the key to, like you said, sustainability. I mean, you have to create something that everyone feels they can do, whether they can or not, right? They feel you're sitting at home, you're on your couch feeling like I could do the NBA, right? Even if you can't, you know, you could never get there, but you know, you feel like you can, you feel like you have a chance because it's an open invitation. Everybody can. And there's always those stories of people that just, you know, went from their couch to the NBA. And it's like, how did that happen? Well, because anybody can do it.
That's right. So, Titus, we're talking a lot about the gamers, but I want to talk about all the other contributors that you mentioned earlier. So with that group especially in mind, what do you think are some essential skills and abilities that someone needs to bring to the gaming industry so that they can be a part of that? So, you know, what are those things?
Man, the key right now in the gaming industry is drive. If you have the drive or the will to want to do something, you can right now. Because it's in such an infancy stage, it's like, you know, think about music back in the 50s, or even like think about sports, the NBA, you know, in the 60s, right? Or in the 50s, right? There was such opportunity out there that if you just wanted it that bad, you could do it. Whether you wanted to be a photographer, a videographer, or, you know, an analyst or a commentator, like if you wanted it bad enough, you could make it happen. And that's where esports is right now. That's where gaming is. It doesn't matter what you want in this industry. You can have it. You can do whatever you want. It is an open canvas. But you have to be willing and you have to have the drive to be able to do it. And then you have to have that like creativity to say, what if there was you know, storyteller in gaming right now? And then just go do it, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You can go do it. It's an open canvas for everybody to be able to get involved.
Well, it reminds me, and you make some of the other sports analogies, but what it makes me think of is back in the early 60s when they were forming the American Football League as a rival to the National Football League.
Yep.
And one of the things they talked about then is for their recruiting is you can either join the NFL and, you know, be another name in the crowd and so on, or you can join this new league, the American Football League, And you're going to be one of the founders. You're going to be one of the early adopters of this, and you're going to help us build this league and build it into something that's significant and so on. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're speaking about here.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, you could do boxing or you could do UFC, right? That's always been the case, right? Like, you always have some other things that can be done. And I think at the end of the day, you want to choose whatever you feel is sustainable, right? And games are not, a single title is not sustainable. There is no game that will last forever, period. It'll go into popularity and out of popularity. That's just how it works. No music, no art lasts forever, though it can live in people's hearts, and it can be something that's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Mona Lisa, right? Like, but Mona Lisa is still not something that people are viewing in the same light that they did back in the day, right? Like, my kids don't care about Mona Lisa, right? But and I really don't care about Mona Lisa, but there was a time where it was like, that was everything. And that's how art is. It's beautiful to those that see it as beautiful, but it doesn't live forever. And I think that's how we need to see games, individual games, whereas gaming is forever. I don't think gaming is going anywhere, and I don't think anybody would disagree with me, but games will.
No, very true. Very true. So, Titus, we've got a couple of minutes left. I want to have you answer this one final question before we wrap things up today. How can an aspiring professional in esports leverage their experiences, whether it be professional experiences or life experiences, to build a future career in esports?
Well, I would say you can start with streaming or broadcasting or showing others how to get the skill that you've been able to obtain. I think coaching is a very underutilized skill in gaming right now, because a lot of people want to kind of keep their skill within themselves or keep the secrets to themselves. But I think leveraging that to coach others is the easiest way in right now.
Awesome. Well, Titus, this has been a very enlightening discussion, and I'm so glad we could have you on to educate not only me, but certainly educate our audience on gaming and where the industry is heading and the opportunities that exist there. And more importantly, just the excitement around the topic. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the HRKyle Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
And folks, I want to thank you as well for joining us on yet another episode of the HRKyle Podcast. This happens because of you. We appreciate your listenership each week. And if you're not following us, first off, I don't understand why, but it's time to start following us, because that's the best way to stay up to date on upcoming episodes and some of the other things that we're up to. So please take a moment to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform. But again, thank you for joining us today. And I just want to leave you with 3 final thoughts. Stay focused, stay grounded, and stay tuned. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of the HRKyle Podcast. We hope you found our discussion valuable and filled with insights that you can apply in your professional journey. Whether you're a business leader aiming to foster a thriving workplace or a job seeker looking to carve out your own path, remember that HRKyle is the compass that can guide you towards success. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your network. We're committed to being your trusted source for HR wisdom, and we look forward to having you back with us for our next episode. Remember, in the world of HR and professional growth, there's always room for progress. Be sure to visit our website at HRKyle.com. That's HRKyle.com to learn more about how we can help you meet your business and professional goals. So until next time, this is HRKyle signing off. Stay motivated, stay informed, keep reaching for those bigger goals. Music provided by bensound.com. That's bensound.com.